Two special right triangles. And so the first one we're going to talk about is a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. And so what would be a way that I could classify this triangle? A right triangle, what else?
Isosceles.
Isosceles because it has
Equals.
two sides the same and two angles the same. So real quick, it says in an isosceles right triangle, if the legs have length L, okay, so if my legs here had a length L and L, the hypotenuse has length what? So let's figure this out. Okay, so if I have L squared and L squared, I know that equals the hypotenuse squared, right? Okay. L squared plus L squared is 2L squared. And that's going to equal C squared. Well, how do I solve that for C? What do?
Multiply L by 2.
I take the square root, right? So now when I think about things, first of all, I don't know what the square root of 2 is. If you try that on your calculator, you're not going to get anything. Okay, but then I have the square root of L squared. If you square something that is squared, what happens to those things? They cancel out, right? And so really that's going to leave me with what? Square root of 2 times L is going to equal C. Okay? And so the hypotenuse is going to have length L times root 2. So the hypotenuse will have a length L times root 2. So in any 45, 45, 90 triangle, the sides are in the ratio LL and then L root 2. So let's go ahead and look at an example. So if I give you that top example and I say to find A, what is A going to be? 13 root 2. Now come test time, you forget that. You don't really need to even remember that because you could use the Pythagorean theorem and you could say 13 squared plus 13 squared equals C squared. All right, and you could go through and solve it and you should be able to get down to 13 root 2, but it's going to take you a little more work. So obviously it's a little better to make sure that you have the ratios down. Let's look at the bottom one. What do you think the bottom one's going to be?
23.
23. Okay, because I'm going backwards. So instead of adding a root 2, I'm taking the root 2 away. And so B is 23. So questions on that? Alrighty, so now we're going to talk about a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now this one isn't like the 45, 45, 90. Okay, this is something you're probably going to have to file away to memory. So in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, if the shorter leg has length A, then the longer leg has length blank, and the hypotenuse has length blank. So I'll let you get that down. It's not going to take up a lot of room on those blanks. Okay, so first of all, the shorter length. Which of these three sides in this triangle would have the shortest length? The what?
DB.
DB. Why is DB the shortest side? Because it's opposite the smallest angle. Very good. Okay, so the side opposite 30 degrees will always be the shortest side. And so now I'm going to tell you a few things. The side opposite the 90-degree angle will always be twice the shortest side. Okay, so the hypotenuse will always have length 2A, and then the side opposite the 60-degree side will always be root 3 times A. Okay, so the hypotenuse and the shortest side have a relationship. The hypotenuse is double the shortest side. To find the side opposite 60, you just take the shortest side times root 3. Okay. So now we're going to look at a few examples. Okay, so let's look at the first one here. I need to find F and I need to find E. So first of all, what is the shortest side? F is the shortest side. Okay, I know that this has to be 60 degrees. F is the shortest side. E is going to be double whatever F is. Okay, so can somebody tell me what they think F would be? 12. Why 12?
Because you take the root 3 off.
You take the root 3 off to go back to the shortest side, right. So F is 12. What do you know about E? What is E going to be?
24.
24. It's going to be 2 times 12, which is 24. Okay. The biggest thing is once you find that shortest side or the hypotenuse, you can pretty much find everything else. So let's look at that bottom example. Okay. So the missing angle here is what? 30. What side do you know in that triangle?
The hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse. So what side should I instantly know? The shortest side, which is?
D.
Which is?
12.
12, because it is half the hypotenuse. Remember the relationship between the two. Hypotenuse is always double the shortest side. So then to find C, what am I going to do? 12 times root 3. You just take whatever the shortest side is and attach a root 3. So far, so good? Okay, let's go ahead and look at this one. So what type of triangle is this? So it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. It's not a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So now in looking at this, what's the length of that side? It's not as easy as the other one. And why is it as easy as the other ones?
Because it's a whole number.
Yeah, because it's a whole number. If you remember, these were the problems we would have. And then when we moved back to the legs, we would just take off the root, right? Okay, so let's think back. If I would just take off the root, essentially I would just be dividing by root 2, right? That's how you would take it off. So what I'm going to do to move back to this side is I'm going to divide the 6 by root 2. So if you ever need to take a root off, you divide by that. So I'm taking 6 and I'm going to divide it by root 2. But real quick, I don't let you have square roots in the denominator. So we're going to have to simplify things a little bit. Okay? So whenever you divide by a root, in order to get rid of it, we're going to multiply both the top and the bottom by that same square root. So if this would have been a root 3, you would have put root 3 over root 3. If it would have been a root 5, you would have put root 5 over root 5. So on the top, I get 6 root 2, which is kind of like what we talked about yesterday. On the bottom, root 2 times root 2 is what?
Root 4.
Root 4, because you multiply the 2 and the 2. What do you know the square root of 4 is?
2.
2. Okay, we're about done. What can we do first before we get our answer? 2 goes into 6 how many times?
3.
3. So your answer is 3 root 2. So to undo that square root, you've got to divide. Okay. Questions?
You mean to solve the whole thing?
What do you mean solve the whole thing?
Like, that's what you
Yes, you need to solve it and get this answer.
So the other two sides are 3.
Both the 2 remaining sides are 3 root 2. Okay, so what you need to do on pages 493 through 494, numbers 1 through 10.